this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no one.
a second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Carrie, that's pretty much.
Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Vlogcast. Of course, here we are on Horrorween once again. This time in late November. If they can. If they can start throwing up Christmas trees at the beginning of October, I can extend Halloween into December.
Or
if you listen to Ministry, every day is Halloween.
There you go.
And besides, I mean, we've been living a horror movie for a couple months now, so why not still talk about horror movies?
Couple of months. It's been at least a year and a half of this shit.
Well,
extended. The full franchise has run for a while now.
We're going to have some fun stuff to go over. We've got Friday the 13th, Part 7 that we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to push this on here, and we're going to take a quick look at the trailer, this time with sound.
Ooh.
I know, it's amazing.
We've moved up in the world.
This is the one you've been waiting for.
What's happening to me?
Your psychokineses and these delusions.
The one you've been asking for.
Hey, Tina. Isn't this the way they wear their jackets back in the mental hospital?
Concentrate, Tina.
The one you've been dying for.
You people give me the creeps. Okay, you big hunk of a man, come and get me.
Jason is back. But this time, someone is waiting.
Jason?
Tina, don't go in there!
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Opening Friday, May 13th, the deadliest day of the year.
There goes the neighborhood.
Indeed, there went the neighborhood.
Deadliest day.
That was, of course, our Friday the 13th. Part 7 trailer. So this is a film. This is obviously the 7th in the franchise that ended with the 4th. And this time, Zombie Jason gets to come back yet again. Now, I've been watching a documentary called Crystal Lake Memories, which is a really good documentary, a very long one. Yeah, I did finally finish it.
Okay.
And I actually have the bonus disc that Dustin was talking about, and I'm going to be watching that. But there was they talked about this one pretty well, and this one I'm just going to move through a basic synopsis, and then we'll move into first impressions. So, of course, in this particular Friday the 13th, Jason is back again because, well, it's Friday the 13th. He's not an ambulance driver this time. And he's going to be fighting a girl with psychic powers. So we got to be careful. We got to hope hard that Jason will be able to overcome this challenge. But as we know, Jason always survives. So,
he's dead.
I mean, in truth, of course, yeah, you're supposed to kind of root for them, but we don't root for them. We root for Jason. That's who you root for in these movies. But let's see. Let's start with Jake, because I'm sure that you're the only one here who this is the first time viewing of Part 7.
Who says this is the first time? Well, it is, but whatever. Yeah, I've never seen this before. And
give you full stage.
What happened?
I gave you full screen.
Oh, good times. And so I saw it, and one thing that I will give New Blood is that they were clearly trying something different, even though, it starts off with kind of pretty much the same formula, except that you do have this girl with psychokinetic powers who, she and her mother and this jerk of a supposed doctor go up, and shenanigans ensue. One thing that I'll maybe go into more detail as we go, this one and the next one we're going to cover, and I did have a couple of things in common that were different from the others. One being that they did both have the survivor girl has an attachment to an older authority figure who's a real jerk and who dragged down the scenes he was in, because I just was rooting for Jason to come and end him so I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. That was more in the second one. But, yeah, overall, I saw it. It was another Friday the 13th movie, rated about on par with some of the others.
Well, I know the one of us that had said that it was his favorite movie couldn't be with us.
Yeah.
But we'll go next to you, Dave. So, Dave, you got the spotlight. Tell us about your first time watching the movie, and what are your first impressions?
Well, my first time watching the movie was definitely not recently, but it was at least recent enough to see it remastered and all that jazz. So that was kind of cool seeing it that way. But I actually fairly liked this one. I know that it went the way of the psychiatry and the psychokinesis and all that jazz, and that's exactly the reason why Jason came back and all that jazz. But I kind of liked it. I mean, I think the first time I had actually seen this entirely was when I marathoned it. Maybe about 8 years ago with my fiance or whatnot. And, I thought it was one of the better chapters in the Friday the 13th series, and there was a decent pair of tits in there, and there
was.
And a couple of decent kills, and one kill that you kind of feel sorry for, but other than that, I mean, I really felt sorry for the girl with the glasses. I don't think.
Yeah.
Same here, Matt.
Well, Mo, let's get your first experience and, of course, first impressions.
Oh, okay. Definitely watched this back in the day because it was one of the ones that our video store had prior to me ordering them all through that tape club or whatever. Used to be my favorite for a long time, just because of Kane Hodder, honestly. And it's hard not to love him as Jason. He basically is Jason. Everybody knows that at this point. It's a shame that they didn't bring him back for Freddy versus Jason. That's a story for another time. I like it, I would agree with Jake. It definitely probably is the most creative one up to this point, and that they actually tried to do something different with it and the whole, telekinetic stuff or whatever. I mean, I guess the cast is okay. I like that they got the sci-fi nerd in there. Biggest gripe in hindsight with this is that they pulled the punches on almost every kill. I think that wasn't necessarily their fault. I think that was more of a ratings thing. I haven't seen on this new set if they have anything that covers that or whatnot, but I've heard some of the kills were supposed to be pretty gruesome. I didn't know that as a kid, though, so I thought it was pretty rad. The psychic stuff was pretty cool. Kane Hodder really went all out with the role, setting himself on fire and stuff, so it's hard not to be impressed by this one. Worst theme song in the entire franchise, just a bunch of noise. It's just a bunch of clomping noise, Other than that, though, I still love it. 6 kind of dethroned it eventually as my favorite overall. But of the Kane Hodder ones, this is definitely my favorite. He knocked it out of the park right out of the gate. A lot of running in the woods in this one, though. I agree with that guy on the kill count. I actually forgot to screenshot the one for 8, but I went and I grabbed it for this one. 16 kills, and Stain wasn't going to be here.
Not bad. So, just as a note on the bloodiness of the kills, of course, they were always at war with the censors. And this is one of those cases where they really did make them much more gruesome, and then they did that strategy, we're going to make them as gruesome as possible, and then have us back off a little bit each time so that we can make them suit. But really where we hit the snag is 8. Part 8 is where we really hit the snag, where the censors got too powerful, in my opinion. But then they overcompensate for it with Jason
Comedy.
Goes to Hell. But Forrest, first experience, first impressions.
Okay, so first time I saw this was 20 years ago. Rented it on VHS when I did a marathon of what was at the time all 9 Friday the 13th movies. It was definitely one of my favorites for a long time. It was among my top favorites of the franchise for a long time. Mainly for Kane Hodder. It was his first, it was his first outing in the hockey mask. Plus, he just looked so badass with the rotted flesh and the exposed bone and the partially shredded hockey mask. I just love the look. To me, Jason never looked more perfect than he did in this movie.
Agreed.
And with the chain around his neck, just total badass. I agree that I definitely like how I found it interesting how they try to do something a little differently with the character of Tina, making her this psychic telekinetic girl. So someone who is like somewhat physically of a match against Jason, physically and mentally, I guess. And also there was a little more effort, in terms of the special effects. Granted, the MPA did neuter this movie in terms of the gore, but you have more pyrotechnics. That you have they collapsed a whole roof on Jason in this one.
Oh yeah, the explosion of the house though, that was
that was great.
So. Okay.
And you had some real talent, like you had Elizabeth Keiten and Heidi Kozak, who on top of looking hot, they were both titans of B movies back in the 80s. You have Jeff, and then you have Terry Kaiser, who played the douchebag doctor, who went on to play Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's. And
he was
yes, he was Bernie.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice.
Yep, and also the sci-fi nerd and Tina's mother, Jeff Bennett and Susan Blue. They're also both voice acting. Also both big names in the world of voice acting big names in voice acting for cartoons and video games.
So. With that being said, let's see if I can. There we go. So I'm going to be a little bit briefer on this movie than I have because I swear I block it out 90% of the time. I considered this the campiest one so far of all the Jason movies, though Kane Hodder does bring an extra dimension to Jason, I always considered the rest of it to be far campier than the series had ever gotten. Though
I consider the one after this more campy.
the rewatching, well, no,
by the way, Dave, yes, I
thus
felt that
far, I said. That's why I said thus far, because there was a time when I would have said that 5 was the campiest I saw, with all the weird comedy aspects and the outhouse kill and all that. But yeah, then you got all the weird psychic powers and stuff brought into this one, so it kind of throws it out there. And you got the weird party with the guy using his little Vulcan sensor thing on like the gifts to try and find his alcohol bottle and stuff like that. It's I don't know. It's kind of out there for me, but I saw this at the same time I did all the rest except for the first 2. When I marathoned it on that Crystal Lake set that Jake now is in possession of, and like I say, I thought it was good. I had admiration for Kane Hodder, but it's definitely not my favorite in the series. So let's go ahead and get started with the plot points. I'm gonna drop some characters along the way. Y'all can catch them and play around with them if you want. So we get started with, of course, our survivor girl, introduced to her as a child, and you get to see an introduction to her powers, because you find out that her parents are fighting and father's obviously abusive. And she's like, I'm not taking it anymore, so I'm going to use my powers to kick your butt and kill you, actually. She kills her father, which is written off as an accident as time goes on. So what are your...
It kind of was. I get the feeling, very strong feeling at that time, that she wasn't by any means in control of her ability.
True, though she did want to kill him at the time.
She did, yeah.
And
the best part is that no one fishes his body out of the lake.
Yeah, screw that.
He's just still there at the end.
I never liked him much anyway.
Maybe he was such a scuzzball that he was no, man, we don't like that guy. Thank goodness he's dead.
Yeah, we're not going to bring the divers out for that one. He's fishing.
Now, well, honestly, though, given the history of this lake, you can imagine any of the authorities they would have gone to probably would have invented some sort of reason not to go in there.
No, Jason's down there. No one wants to go and face Jason, so...
So
who wants to go diving down there? Jason is supposedly still chained down there, guys.
I think he wouldn't have. Well, I don't know. He might have been around there at the time, but but he wouldn't have been buried there. That would have been before
his body was still down there when the dad got killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what does.
And she goes to the exact same spot where her dad was killed when she's angry at that fucking doctor. So of course her anger will incite the chains being loosed on
Jason.
Yep.
But of course, with that being said, what are y'all's thoughts about her in general as a character? Because she does bring Jason back. She is the instrument that brings him back down, though, and she is our survivor girl. Do you feel like she's a good hero?
I like her. She's strong. She's strong. She's strong, but also vulnerable.
Right.
Very I find her very I found her very very likable.
Yeah, I liked her too. I thought she's more believable as a survivor girl than some of the others that we've seen.
Probably since part 2, actually.
Yeah.
Right. And she also,
I don't know. I would say Megan from part 6 was definitely one of the better
well,
finals.
a couple of them.
She's certainly nice to look at, too.
Which one was it? Was it 3? There was one of them where it was like almost ludicrous. I can't remember which one it was, but this one she makes sense, She is likable enough. She and Nick get on really well, and he's likable enough. So as central leads, you had some good people to root for. There are some other side characters you kind of like as well, and again, there are some you don't like. So it's a fair balance in terms of that, you know.
I like the way that she she wasn't a puss about it when that other blonde girl later in the movie, who actually kind of looks like the chick from part 6, when she was like being mean to her and stuff. I don't know. She didn't just like immediately run home. I feel like I've seen lots of horror movies where it's, you know, I'm just gonna run home because she said a mean thing to me.
She wasn't. She was very whiny, but she was not. But she wasn't quite as bad as a lot of these have been. She wasn't as flighty.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the best way to say it. Flighty.
Little girl version of her looked like Carol Ann from Poltergeist too.
Oh my! I was the only one who noticed that.
I was for a split second because it'd been a while since I'd watched this. I was like, wait a minute.
I was thinking that too at first too, but then when I looked her up, it was like, no.
I think the girl from Poltergeist might have even been dead at this point. You know.
Yeah.
I remember when Poltergeist 3 came out.
They did come out within months of each other. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I think she died before 3 came out, so if she was if that predated part 7 then
she died before 3 even was finished filming.
Yeah, she died during the filming, I believe, if I recall correctly.
See, I just take issue with her. The whole hook of this just doesn't make sense. How do you accidentally raise some other corpse? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't understand how that works. I guess we're not meant to. It's just
maybe she secretly wanted to kill off everybody around her, and maybe she just like that was her subconscious way of striking out to kill all the people for being assholes.
Maybe
you know. Again, this is one of my things with the series overall, is that there are what they call a miracle exception or leap of faith or whatever that you have to do to really fully take a movie even on its own terms. There's so many of those with this series.
Yeah.
You kind of have to suspend your disbelief. In other ones, it's stuff that if you can adjust your brain to slasher logic, it at least makes some sort of like, okay, sure, why not kind of sense. In this one, it's like, what? Okay, she can see the future. She's got these mind powers. How the hell is she just raising random corpses out of the lake?
Or why isn't she just do more to stop Jason from killing people?
Actually, I wondered about that because the way the film is edited, it seems like sometimes the vision she has, you don't see until much later in the film. But I don't know if there's anything definitively saying that they're not happening then. So I was thinking of her as clairvoyant or maybe limitedly precognitive. I don't think she's
still. I mean, I imagine when she's reaching out with the mind tendrils, right, and she's grabbing a hold of things. It's like feeling for something in the dark, or maybe like she didn't chain her dad to a boulder at the bottom of the lake. Why are you pulling that one up?
We gotta look at
that is really weird. That is really weird.
We gotta run it by Leslie Vernon rules. She's gotta have the others die around her in order to be strong, and then manage to fight back. That's why she's saved for last, is because of that.
It's a shame that her mom had to go, though, man. That lady's hair, she was keeping it high and tight. It's a glorious name that she had up there. Like,
essentially,
I did feel bad for her. I did feel bad for her. I mean, first she had that loser husband, and then she gets suckered into this stupid thing that ends up. Well, we'll get into more of that, I guess, when we get into the doctor's character. But I'll go ahead and say, as far as the mother, she was one of the ones I kind of felt a little sorry for.
Yeah.
Well, she wanted to do something right for her. Unfortunately, she got that asshole doctor with.
Yeah,
she was used as a human shield.
Yeah, just got meat shielded. Awesome. I felt bad for her, but it made me like the doctor more. if that makes sense. It's like, well, I knew this guy was a scumbag, but I didn't know that he was like next level scumbag villain. So when he used her as a human shield, I do tend to cheer at that part. Like, fuck yeah, that's how you get it done. I think in those situations, if you're going to even camp at Crystal Lake, like if we were all to go, it would be prudent for all of us to decide which of us we might trip in front of them as base.
I just got to train.
I'll jump on that grenade if I pull the short straw, but that's just.
I just got to train to run faster than everybody else. That's all it is.
None of us are going to be able to train to run faster than Jason, though. He's definitely doing some Wesley Vernon sprinting out there. He's got mean cardio, especially after he's undead. And it just doesn't even matter.
Right.
So, when we go forward in time, and of course she raises Jason because she's on this retreat at the same lake because there's the thought that maybe this will help her. And then of course she has all of her friends with, and I'll use the term friends as loosely as possible, and they're all having their party. They're sleeping with one another. They're kind of cheating on one another. One of them's trying to take the boyfriend of the other one. It's just a whole bunch of crap, but we all know they're going to die, so who cares? But,
I think they're out there to throw a surprise party for a dude that's already dead.
Yeah.
How little they know.
What's happening to them.
Yeah.
So, what are y'all's thoughts on the people?
The people.
On the party.
Yeah, the party peoples.
I think this one does like a super good job of having it. It just fills all the slots with bodies.
Right.
None of them matter, and they're all kind of characters we've seen several times at this point in the series. You got your denim jacket like hero dude too. I love that.
Yeah.
It's just like just put another dude in a denim jacket.
You have Maddie, who seems to be the most grounded out of all of them. I mean, she's just tagged along with her friend.
I felt so. She's the one. She's one of those. She's one of those characters in the franchise that I felt so bad for when she got killed.
Right.
No, wait, is that the chick with the nerd chick that does the
nerdy
makeover?
I think so. Yeah.
I kind
feel bad. Man stealer. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's trying to gank her friend's boyfriend.
Well, her friend though is not exactly very.
Well, the nerdy friend is the one that
she died because she was too dumb to carry her glasses in her pocket. Like if you're going to wander around in the woods, just to at least have them in there, and then
she
you're
was
like, oh shit, there he is.
David, and her best friend was out to steal Maddie's crush.
Yeah.
So. And she did. She was sleeping with the dude, and she was the one where he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go down." He fell out of bed, and he tripped over something, and he was like, "Oh, I fell out of bed," and he went down to the refrigerator, and Jason got him right there.
I was just thinking to myself, there is a lot of repetition in these movie series, because I'm just trying to think. It's like I feel bad for the nerd guy, and then I'm like, holy crap! That exact same scene played out in the 8th movie, essentially, where the girl was kind of leading him on, using him, and then as soon as the use was done, it was like, okay, bye, and the nerd guy's just like,
yep.
Well,
I was just trying to make Nick jealous. Oh my god.
Yeah, that little thing. She
loved it.
She got what was coming to her.
I loved it when right before the scene where the pearls just came off her neck. As he was talking about, oh, my daddy got me these pearls, and they set it up just right so that when she did her fucking anger spurt.
Isn't getting your daughter pearls kind of weird? Like, isn't that a wife thing?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that in some old movie before, where it's like, "Oh, she got me pearls,"
Well,
I feel like that's kind of a romantic gift, not a
for
daughter
a
gift.
time in the 80s, it was the grandma pearls.
You get your daughter like a locket. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but if you're a rich daddy who seems to be like going to the golf course every single fucking day. I mean, of course he's going to get her some pearls.
A lot of those dudes are the ones that have weird things for their daughters, though, too.
I mean,
I'm
not going to say anything.
suspect,
In
to
the
say
late
the least,
70s to 80s, it was the grandma pearls.
It's worth considering.
It was the grandma pearls and the pads. You know, I mean, you saw it in Dynasty.
So essentially, and I'm not going to go into any more.
Straight out of a soap opera, definitely. There's no doubt about it.
I'm not going to go super in depth with the plot in this because really and truly, it gets to that beginning and Jason's raised. The next part of it is we're going to kill off all the people around her. And then it gets to the final battle, and that's pretty much the whole deal of it. Set up.
We do need to talk about why the doctor is such a scumbag. So they've got this whole retreat plan with the mother and the daughter and the doctor, where he has this whole line where if he brings her back to where she's from, I guess she could deal with her trauma. You know. And he keeps threatening with like, well, you don't want to go back to the hospital, do you?
Which is exactly where she came from to go to this retreat. She came from the hospital.
Right. And so basically, it eventually comes out that this guy is fascinated with her paranormal abilities and is putting her through all this trauma not to heal her, but so that he can milk this for all it's worth for the research value or whatever. He thinks that maybe he'll be able to make a name for himself, and that's all he cares about.
He's a Dr. Vakeman, essentially, except
Vakeman, but without morals.
Not charming. Without being charming.
Without charm and with fewer morals, because Venkman didn't have that many to begin with. But
I'll give you all a little bit of psych history here, just as my own little professional perspective. So back in those days, people still didn't have quite the rights that they do today. And you could do, basically, even in the 80s, you could get what was called a green warrant on somebody. And that essentially is, you see your neighbor, you get into a fight with your neighbor, you don't like them, you go and sign them into a psych hospital, and they got to go. And that's just how it worked for most states at that time period. And doctors could sign their people in indefinitely for no reason other than they needed to fill those beds.
Dude, that's ridiculous. I mean, you could commit your neighbors and shit.
Oh yeah.
Like that's still comical. It doesn't even sound real. I picture them showing up with like the big butterfly nets to catch them or something. You know?
I'm not sure I've heard that people had that much carte blanche, but I have heard about the whole thing with the doctors. I mean, that was a big thing. Wasn't a girl interrupted where that was a big part of the plot?
Yes,
I know it was with Unsane.
That's why Citizen's Arrest is kind of in the whole mix too, because if you get enough neighbors on the same side that okay, that neighbor over there, he looks like he's humping the wall. Let's go tell someone he's humping the wall. Sign him into that loony bin and get him the fuck off our block, you know?
Hey man, ain't nothing wrong with getting a little wall. Okay?
that power was
Dave, that's what he's already doing.
That power was usually used for spouses. Usually husbands would get their wives committed. Or it would be used racially, as in, we're in a white neighborhood, there's one black family that moves in there. Okay, we're going to send them all to the hospital indefinitely. They're being... Actually, in the 70s, being uppity was considered enough of a charge to lock them away for 30 years.
That's whack.
So
that's wild.
But as far as doctors, because doctors were such scumbags, our state, for instance, Virginia, outlawed that, so doctors have zero authority to hospitalize any of their patients psychiatrically. So that's because they were that corrupt.
Dude, it makes you wonder like how many people there's probably more like sane people in the asylums just because somebody was pissed at them than there was people with actual problems that needed to be there, maybe, or it could actually get treatment instead of just some MK Ultra shit or something.
Any other type of like stuff that y'all wanted to talk about during the basically that plot line between she wakes Jason up and we get to the end fight?
There's a lot to be said about the finale of this movie.
Yeah, that's why I'm holding on to it until the end.
But I don't know, man. Like I said, it just does a really good job of. It feels like they just gave you a full clip of kids to kill and threw you out there into another Friday the 13th movie. You know, we do have that extra, like, interesting bit of the whole, superpowers and the scumbag doctor and that mom's sweet fucking hairdo. But other than that, no, I think you've hit all the bullet points there.
Did anyone else feel like the best friend that, again, that
redhead?
Yeah. Did anyone else think she looked creepily like John Travolta?
Nope.
I don't know why I thought that.
I didn't pick up on that, but I think that's a reason enough to do a rewatch right there. Enjoy that.
My. And introducing Adele Dazeem.
I meant to pull that on you in our last video with your butchering of those Japanese names, and I forgot about it.
Hey, I made an actual attempt, and I did okay, considering I'm terrible at these type of things.
Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem. I actually have that clip. Thank you very much. But I thought that they did a decent job. Though I think that they improved upon it for Vengeance when it comes to that, because Vengeance they really had it set up in Vengeance. You know what I'm saying? There you go.
Here to perform the Oscar-nominated, gorgeously empowering song "Let It Go" from the Oscar-winning movie Frozen. Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Have you guys seen his TikTok?
No.
Oh god, I'm pretty sure he's a fucking serial killer, bro. There's like a weird, creepy vibe I get from John Travolta when I see those TikToks.
Travolta's an odd one.
Scientologist for years.
He's an odd one, but he's always been considered a fairly nice guy. So I guess it's what it is.
Hey,
but
you can be nice. Buffalo Bill was offering that girl lotion in the hall.
What is the common refrain? What is the common refrain when you seem like such a nice guy?
They always do it first.
Must be all those things.
I don't know. I guess my only other comment of like on the bulk of the movie to this point would definitely be that they try to recreate some beats from previous ones, like the slow-mo toss out the window, but it's just not as cool, or just little things like that.
Well, he definitely likes windows because he crashed through one in here. So,
and I will say that in terms of the final tour of the victims or whatever, isn't this the one where he jerks the dude off of the thing, or is it? No, that might be in part 4. Never mind.
No, but there is a penis pumper that is opened up in here. So I don't know if that.
Well, it was labeled as a penis enlarger, but it was just a magnifying glass.
The penis mightier.
Well, yeah, because the party next door was supposed to be for Nick's husband, and I don't think we entirely fleshed that out. So,
yeah, and like I say, it's enough that I was tired enough when I tried to watch this that I knew there was a birthday party going on, but I just totally just went, they're just all gonna die. That was about all my thought was. Why should I get attached? They're all gonna die.
Right.
Pretty much, yeah. And it does start to, the repetition sets in, I guess, a little in this one when I'm watching it from without the nostalgia goggles on, It's sort of, we got cool bony Jason and there's special powers, but in terms of the slasher part of the movie, it does start to feel a little, even more beat by beat at this point, I think, than the other stuff.
I feel like if the MPA hadn't neutered the gore, it probably would have been one of the standouts in the franchise.
Oh yeah, there's some of those kills just in just thinking of the logistics of it. There's no way to do it where it's not disgusting. Other than the way they did it, which is just us not seeing it.
In a way, I think that Vengeance took the place of what this was trying to be, because Vengeance had one heck of a kill streak. I mean,
I've heard good things.
Dang. That thing.
See that.
Oh, it's the great thing is it's free on YouTube, so you can check it out anytime. It is worth it.
I think you can still buy copies of it too.
Oh, it was worth. I'm glad I have it in my collection.
Actually, I should mention when I was Friday the 13th this month, I was in Blairstown, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Visiting the filming location for visiting the camp where the original was filmed, and there's actually a whole Friday the 13th museum in town, and I think they had posters for Vengeance on sale.
Didn't you get served friggin' lunch by like Friday the 13th 7 Jason at that diner?
I did. I got strangled by him.
Nice.
So diner with Steve Christie had dinner before he got killed.
I actually have a signed poster for Vengeance, but yeah, that was cool. I want to actually, in the time between this one and the next one, you need to entertain us with the stories of your Camp Blood visit.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's see. We are at the point where we get the battle between Jason and Psychic Girl. He's finally killed enough of her friends, her mother, the douchebag psychiatrist, and it just all of their dead bodies. They piled up enough that it made her ticked off, and finally she's going to use her powers on Jason. And you can see Kane Hodder's performance. He's like, "What the?"
Now that she's now that she's figured out how to manage her powers on her own, because this retreat was, in fact, a good thing for her to figure out how powerful she really was, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she was kicking some butt throughout that thing, electrocuting them, setting them on fire, all that stuff.
Well,
dropping
and
them through friggin' staircases. My God.
There is something about that fire. I watched some of the behind the scenes on that fire, and Kane Hodder said that he actually went to the hospital through the fire scene in the basement.
I think he set a record for how long. I think he set a record for how long a stuntman was set on fire for a film.
Yep. Yeah. At the time, it might even still be standing. I don't know, but it was for a long time.
He got hurt twice in that film because he also got hurt when that thing collapsed on him too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was as lasting as the fire because he got some really nasty burns from that, but he got that thing actually collapsed on him for real, and that actually he said it hurt.
But if I had to say anything about the budget, I think the budget went into the CGI for the lightning that struck him. So. As far as I don't know,
Jason, there was a price tag attached to him for sure. That design of definitely had to have cost money. And it was like a suit Kane wore and shit,
Yeah. We'll have to come back to that with the makeup and the effects, most definitely.
In terms of finales, man, it's a strong contender for having the craziest. Yeah. Okay, we're not talking about the Dead Stop finale later. We'll get to that horse shit. But the battle. Easily the craziest, I think, in the franchise because it's just nuts. Like he's getting set on fire, he's getting smacked in the face, he's getting strung up by light cords and dropped through staircases. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
I would say this is the first time in the series Jason met his match one-on-one. Somebody that was there. Not until Freddy versus Jason.
Somebody that could actually kick his ass.
She kicked his ass and she destroyed the mask. Like the actual mask. She tightened it until it split. Yeah, that's one of the better scenes in the movie too.
Probably the best unmasking. I would say the best unmasking of the whole series.
Mm-hmm. Should have been the first time we ever saw his face as adult Jason. I mean, as much as I love Hillbilly Jim Jason out there bursting through walls and stuff, This would have been a much more impactful, like, because as a kid, that shit freaked me out, and it still is kind of one of those holy shit, that just still looks badass moments, you know.
Yeah, his Jason was definitely a new part, but that's a different Jason. That's zombie Jason. It's really the first time we get to see zombie Jason in his deformed hell baby look, and it's a heck of a lot better than the look he had in Jason Goes to Hell.
Well,
Jason Goes to Hell did not happen.
See, I like bits of that. We'll get there, I'm sure. Are we doing those, or is this?
Oh
the
yeah,
final
that's
one here? Okay.
that's the when we get into December, we're going to be covering Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and then we're going to finish it off with Freddy vs. Jason and the Killer Cut.
Nice, because there's, I like bits of that, but yeah, it's, I don't know, man. And one thing that I think is just absolutely awesome about this whole final scene is definitely like the level that they went to make those stunts real. They really are just dropping Kane Hodder through the floor, pretty much,
So, of course, we have a big back and forth, and we keep seeing, oh, by the way, well, that's okay, Jason's invincible. He's not really doing a lot of damage. I mean, he does manage, most of the damage he inflicts is to her, like, boyfriend, essentially. Throughout the whole...
Doesn't he mess that guy up with like one of those little things your mom like rakes the lettuce patch with or something?
Oh, backer.
Actually, though, there was that scene where he's got the weed eater and he puts a saw blade on there, and I thought to myself, my grandfather did that because you could do some damage and cut down small trees really easily if you put a buzzsaw blade on a weed eater like that when you at it.
I will have to say that they used the "I'll be right back" trope like twice.
Hey, but I think they were just throwing in the kitchen sink in this one.
He was camping with his girlfriend, and he was like, "I'll be right back." And of course, that's when Jason picks up the machete and, of course, slams the sleeping bag around. So with the girl in it, which
sleeping bag kill was the best, and it could have been better.
Yep.
Because they had it where he was doing it, but they had to just do a quick, until because they couldn't have him slamming it against until she was bloody. Which, by the way. Friday the 13th, the game, they did fix that by having that full-on kill for Jason.
Dude, I think that, honestly, the quick cut works in the favor of the scene, though.
And, of course, your token residential people of color, he comes out of that van, which kind of looks like the van from the previous where he had the taco thing looking like
demon. Rest in peace.
Except without without the retro shagadelic carpet on the inside. So
definitely loses a star for that.
We need to go back to doing that. Just get a bunch of vans, get like some shag carpet in there, and just have like parties out of that sort of thing.
I do like how he stabs that girl with the party horn and it makes a good noise. So.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, looking at how it ended, what did y'all think of the actual end for Jason?
Worst in the entire franchise. What the hell is going on with the dad still down there and he still just looks fine?
And then his body, the dad's body, the dad's down there, still down there, but they never bothered to look for his body. They never bothered to look for his body.
I watched that kill count by Dead Meat to get the number, the 60. I don't know why I just didn't Google it. I watched the whole kill count video. It was cool seeing the kills again, I guess. But he says that guy looks like an extra in a pirate movie, and I could not stop laughing. That is spot on.
You want to know what something is funny is that after watching that documentary, and they said they had a full-on animatronic that had like the kind of like decay and all that ready to do it, but then they decided last minute, no, we'll use the real guy, we'll throw some light makeup. They said, well, you throw heavy makeup. Then they said, no, we can't do that. Let's use light makeup on him. And then that ended up being what got into it.
Isn't it John Carl Buechler or whatever his name is?
John Carl Buechler.
Yeah, what a waste. That's like having Tom Savini out there and just having him put eyeshadow on someone or something.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Because
going on?
I saw some of the original concepts for it, and it looked freaky as heck. Because it looked like another zombie basically coming up and grabbing him
Doesn't
down.
that guy have it actually in that Crystal Lake documentary? I think he's got it sitting there with him, doesn't he, or something like that? He still has it at home.
Yeah, some of the people, it's kind of funny because they come on with like their heads, severed heads, and all that stuff.
That's how you got to do it.
But if you're gonna chop my head off in the film, I want my head to take home with me.
I don't know, man. It's just such a stupid and unnecessary ending. It's them trying to do that whole I think the idea, even with the corpse, is kind of stupid. Honestly, even if it looked awesome, it's just kind of stupid.
I thought they were kind of trying to flip the surprise ending from the first three movies on its head by having instead of having like Jason or his mother popping out and grabbing the final girl. It's someone else coming out from the other leg and grabbing Jason for a change.
Well, she can reanimate dead bodies now? Well, then no one's actually dead in this movie then. How about that? she can just go around and be like, cured.
How about that?
She didn't resurrect Jason. She pulled him up.
If anything,
he was down there like, shit, this sucks, and then this girl pulled him up out of the water.
So with that being said, let's talk a bit about the special effects, because the music was, but the special effects in this film were top notch.
Oh,
probably some of the best in the series. But go ahead, Tor. Sorry.
No, I was just saying. I was agreeing. Absolutely. But yeah, it was as I said earlier, the show best looking Jason. In this, I love the make, like how they did how he looked when his mask came off with he had the decay, the exposed skull and all the broken teeth and bullet wounds and stab wounds.
His whole spine's exposed.
His ribs are exposed.
Oh yeah,
his clothes look like they're just rotting off of him at this point too, which is like my favorite aspect of it for some reason. Exposed bones are awesome, but that rotten ass clothing is just great.
For a moment when you saw because at first they would do like a boot shot where they just have like a picture or a videotaping of his feet. I was thinking, Kiss has come to town for a moment, even though I know those aren't the Kiss boots, that he's wearing. But I was just thinking, hey, the demon has come to be Jason for a moment.
Hell yeah. That'd have been a cool twist.
Right?
Those enchiladas really packed a punch. He came back from the friggin' dead. I don't know, man. Awesome Jason, though, for sure. I concur.
Yes.
And you said that you were talking about the pyrotechnics. That house explosion. When I was hearing about the cast and they were getting there, and they could feel the heat off of that because they really did blow that house to smithereens.
Mm-hmm.
That's just wild.
Yeah.
Right.
I think those cabins were just built for the movie. Those cabins were built just for the movie too.
Well, and even just dropping that thing on him, that's fucking dangerous. Even trained, and with it being somewhat faked, it's it seems like a super sketchy thing to do. Why would you not use a dummy or something? Why drop the damn roof on Kane? That's how someone gets hurt, I think he probably came several inches from dying a couple of times on this movie, if we're being real about it.
Yeah, I did read something just now. He said when he fell through the stairs, he narrowly missed getting.
You'd have had a real dead Jason at the end of that, which would have been a real shame because Kane Hodder is an amazing stunt person. And playing Jason in those, that's what he's known for, is playing Jason, of course, in those three movies. But I want to say three, right? It was 4. 7, 8, Jason Goes to Hell. Oh, and Jason X. Yeah, I forgot about Jason X. So yeah, I mean, he was the one who was best known for the body language. He was pretty much a zombie Jason, for the most part. He became what we know of as Jason today.
Oh yeah, he's the first dude to repeat the role. I mean,
to make it his own, really make it his own.
Yeah.
So it's
even just the way he
of
breathes and like heaves the chest. I think he talks about it maybe in one of those documentaries, but it's like just that subtle little thing. His Jason looks like he's ready to spring and snap your friggin' neck at any moment, you know? Even as much as I love Part 6 Jason, he had more of that like zombie-like, just like a freight train or a Panzer tank just rolling over you. This Jason looks like he's going to relish in tearing you apart, you know? And that's
Right.
definitely something Kane brought in there. And then obviously all the stuff we've talked about, you know, with the crazy stunts, that was a whole new area that was opened up with Kane Hodder because he could take it, you know. I think any of the other previous Jasons would have been dead Jason at the end of this.
Yeah.
You know? Kane's uniquely suited for that stuff. He already had third-degree burns all over his body before he showed up to work on this thing. So he's a veteran.
So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and... Does anybody have anything they want to say that they felt like was really awesome about the music that made it stand out from the rest of the series?
Not really.
It could use more Alice Cooper, or at least something that something more rocking, you know.
Dude, this is the only one with the title sequence or the opening credit sequence where I'm just bummed, you know, because it's just a bunch of like, you know, it's like it's not even music.
And then you had that choir, and then you had that choir that just kind of.
You know, Dustin probably had something really amazing to say about the music and stuff, but then now he's not here to say it. Well, we'll just pretend that he said something spectacular about the series.
I suppose it does build your anticipation because you know you're about to see something gnarly, being as, you know, well, it's another Friday the 13th movie, but I don't know. I like a nice, you know, hop to the step with it, like Friday the 13th Part 3. They should have kept that going forever, but
yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, when they go up there, they have to ask for more. It's like this scene here, where it's like, you know,
Please, sir. I want some more.
Some more?
yeah, that's exactly what he said during that time when they were asking for more movies after this one.
I meant to make a note of that too when we were watching the trailer. They're like, it's the one you've been waiting for, the one you've been asking for. And it's like, I don't know at this point if people were waiting for or asking for them. We just kind of knew they were coming out every year. You know?
Well, we probably paid to see them.
Is this the first movie where they use the catchphrase, there goes the neighborhood?
I think so.
Maybe.
And I know that I've heard it before, but when she says it, it makes me feel like this is like the first movie, like during the 80s or 90s, that we actually hear that catchphrase. And I know that it comes from. I know it comes from a partially racial commentary, you know, because
probably. I feel like that phrase was just thrown around a lot, though.
Probably.
You know, it became a thing for a bit there.
Also, I think I was the first one to say, I don't think so.
So with that being said, why don't we hit favorite scenes and then we'll move. Then we'll hit the intermission with Forrest's stories, and then we'll head on to number 8. So, Jake, what was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene. Nothing really leaps out. I guess maybe seeing Tina like start to come into her own with her powers was pretty cool. Seeing the doctor and the spoiled stuck-up bitch both getting killed, those were both pretty fun. They happened too late, but they were fun. That's really nothing really leaps out to me.
What about you, Forrest? What's your favorite scene?
For me, it's probably it's toss up between Dr. Cruz getting it with a weed whacker, and also the unmasking of Jason, with like the put she's like using her telekinesis to tighten up his mask, and all that pus is oozing out of his head.
Yeah.
And then finally they reveal his face, and it's like kind of a holy shit moment. It just looked really good. It just looked badass.
So what about you?
Yeah, it looks
Mo?
like it would somehow make him smell worse, you know? Like he already smelled bad, but as soon as that seal was cracked on that Tupperware, I'm sure it smelled like butt, bro. That whole final battle is amazing, so that kind of goes without saying. I think, like, outside of that and her mom's hairdo, my favorite moment in the movie is just probably how stupid that ending is. I don't know. No, I definitely do love, like, when she crashes the car for some reason. That part where she sees, like, the vision of her mom getting it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I always really like that scene, and then she just runs aimlessly into the woods. So if I had to choose something that wasn't already covered, it'd be that, or like the badass logic of, well, car's broken down, let's have a picnic in the woods. Like, I like that kind of stuff. So,
what about you, Dave?
I would like to say that one of my favorite moments is when she takes the fucking TV and like throws it at the doctor. That was pretty tight. I mean, I hadn't seen anything done with the TV since Nightmare on Elm Street. So, primetime TV, bitch, So, but I think my favorite part of it was when she actually was able to psychically throw some nails at him and threw him on fire. I mean that whole sequence just went dunk 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 dunk, and it was just spot on in that basement, and then of course that part where you knew that he was going to get electrocuted in the puddle, that was just oof,
Well, it's still astounding to watch too, man. Like, it's one of those burns that's long enough where you hit that point where you're like, damn, there's a real dude in there.
I liked that part just at the beginning when she finally realized I'm not going to be the victim. I'm going to use my powers on him. Starts wrapping those tree branches a la Evil Dead around Jason's legs. He's looking like, what the? Because, he's looking around surprised and all that stuff about happening. She takes him into that puddle and then electrocutes him with the live wire. I mean, that's just like awesome right there. Beginning of like an awesome battle. Well, with that being said, we're going to have a brief word from our sponsor as we wait, and then we're going to hit the forest there.
A penguin? And he's been drinking. Wait a minute. Penguins can't fly. Penguins can't fly!
I think that speaks well to the logic of our next book that we are going to be covering. And with that being said, I'm going to move us back over to
this series would have been better with a penguin.
Yes, it would have.
A drunken penguin.
Yes.
He does stay around for that whole episode, though. And continues to drink. And so with that being said, Forrest, give us a kind of a brief summary as to your adventures with Jason. You obviously were the survivor girl in this one because you're still with us.
I think Forrest's the hottest survivor girl yet.
Yes, I survived a day. Yes, I survived a day trip at at the real Camp Blood. I even got a water bottle to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, actually, water bottle. A coffee table.
Did it come with some actual Camp Crystal Lake water in it?
No, I don't think it was actual lake water. I don't think they used actual lake water.
That's a good Jason Cork's water.
Yeah, Jason Cork water. Everybody. Oh, and also this keychain.
Ah, cool.
Cool.
But yeah, it was about it was a two. Yeah. It was about a 2-hour drive from my apartment to the town. Actually, to the camp. First, I stopped off at the diner where Steve Christie, the owner of Camp Crystal Lake, where he went for dinner before he went back to camp. I had breakfast there, and got strangled by Jason. There was a lot of fans. There was a lot of Friday the 13th fans all over town, like wearing shirts and wearing T-shirts, costumes, hoodies. People were coming in from the Midwest, the South. Just to see this place. I did find interesting. I was surprised that the camp itself, it's a lot more spread out than it looks in the movie. It's a lot more spread out, and actually the movie itself, the camp looks, everything looks pretty close. Everything looks pretty flat. It wasn't the case. Everything's very spread out. Everything's a lot. There's quite a bit of hiking between cabins. I did learn actually the if you remember the beginning of the first movie, there's all those campers having a camp around the fire. That was actually in one of those like those open air picnic areas.
Right, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently Tom Savini had used one of the camp ovens to bake Mrs. Voorhees' head, and apparently it smelled like burned rubber.
Was Steve Christie wearing those sweet cutoff jean shorts when you met him?
No, it was actually okay. So the camp itself is actually a scout camp, and all the tour guides there, all the tour guides and organizers were all former scouts, and they were doing it as a fundraiser for the camp itself because they couldn't open it this summer because of COVID, but they were also doing it as a fundraiser for a neighboring camp for terminally ill children. So that's about $200 that went to a worthwhile. I feel like it's $200 that went to a worthwhile cause.
How rad would that be to be those scouts?
So how was the lake itself? Did it feel like Jason was sitting there underneath?
I feel like I definitely got that impression that his body's still down there. Actually, the beach where Mrs. Voorhees and Alice were fighting each other in the third act. The shoreline, the beach is actually receded and is now underwater.
Oh.
Apparently the camp's been having issues with beavers damming the lake.
That's awesome.
The beavers are what really defeats Jason in the end.
Yep, and also I found that Kevin Bacon's cabin and Brenda's cabin, the girl who got thrown through the window in the first movie. They're actually their cabin was actually the same cabin. They just filmed each scene on different sides. So a lot of movies. So I found that there was a lot for $900,000 for a movie that cost less than $1 million to make. There was a lot of movie magic that went into it.
Hey, if you're smart, work smarter, not harder, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so, some's got to pay for the budget of the drugs those kids need in the woods to get into those movies too. I feel like in one of those documentaries they talk about how they partied fairly hard when they were making some of those Friday movies.
Yeah, and actually, I will say it's. The area itself is a lot more developed than it was back in 1979 when the movie was shot. Like when I was driving from the town to the camp itself, there were a lot of mansions on the way. Whereas you go back and watch the movie, and it's all like woods and farmland. Actually, if interesting, so if you remember in the first movie, Mrs. Voorhees picks up Annie, and Annie tells her that hey, you passed the camp. That scene was actually filmed on the campground itself. So they didn't even miss the camp. They were already in it.
Yeah, those liars. What's going on?
Yeah, we need to just boycott it from here on out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like having a second Halloween.
Oh,
sounds amazing, dude.
And I strongly recommend. If for any Friday the 13th or just a horror fan in general, I strongly recommend visiting if you get the chance. They did for a long time. The owners of the camp were embarrassed that the movie was filmed there. It was only within the last 15 years they finally started opening it up to outsiders for tour. But only by reservation though.
See that one and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre gas station or two. I'd really like to go to. I think you can get barbecue there, and you can like Airbnb the house or so. Like it's something that's the equivalent or some nonsense.
There's no barbecue or anything like that at the camp. But there are these water bottles with water, which you can get water, coffee, or hot chocolate.
I don't know if I'd want any barbecued squirrel or whatever Jason was barbecuing out there.
Barbecued dog. That little dog.
Well, you could get some of Mrs. Voorhees' head, apparently.
Yeah, but I do recommend going to the diner. Definitely check out the diner. They've got plenty of autograph. The diner itself has all sorts of Friday the 13th shit hanging all over the place, like autographs and cardboard cutouts, masks. The staff at the diner wear T-shirts with hockey masks on them. And the town itself, it feels like, even though like the route from the town to the camp is a lot more developed, but the town itself has barely changed in 40 years.
That's cool.
If I lived there, I think I'd ride around on a bicycle dressed as Ralph and just tell people they're doomed. That'd be awesome. part of the tourist attraction.
You're doomed.
Actually, the bike route that Ralph took leaving the camp, there was nothing like when he was leaving, biking off into the abyss. There was like nothing there. It's just like that. It was a dead end.
I feel like as drunk as Ralph was, though, that makes sense.
And apparently the cop who was looking for him didn't even know how to ride that motorcycle. There was a lot of interesting tidbits. Also, I did get to lay under the bed where Kevin Bacon got killed.
I saw that picture. That was cool.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience for the ages.
You got to see Jason's point of view.
Exactly. Actually, no. My point of view was of Mrs. Voorhees.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Jason was still sitting in the lake in the first movie.
Yeah.
I was really hoping you crawled under the bed. That's the you know what I mean? Kevin Bacon's bed.
So with that, I guess we will go on ahead and end our intermission and go back to our nice screen as we debut our trailer for Part 8.
All right.
Spreading the news.
Damn, son.
Friday the 13th, starting. Jason takes Manhattan. Now, New York has a new problem.
Boy, that trailer's writing checks that movie can't cash.
This teaser and the I Love New York poster brought to you by a sizable portion of the movie's budget. That's pretty cool.
Right. Ashamed of this Friday the 13th. They didn't even want to show anything.
No actual movie.
They're gonna need a bigger boat.
They're gonna need a bigger budget.
So
speaking of working on a budget, Brandon, Cats and Dogs is down to 11.
So, with that being said, my throat is starting to kill, so I'm going to start y'all off on these first impressions while I get some more painkiller tea. And so we'll start with Mo, then Dave, then Jake, then Forrest, and I will be back hopefully before y'all are done.
All right. So the first time that I watched this movie was actually somewhat accidental, I guess. I was trying to watch Bordello of Blood, if I remember right, at my aunt's house. And I think it was Bordello of Blood because I don't remember there being loud sex scenes in any of the other Tales from the Crypt stuff. But I was watching it, and she burst in like she was like, it sounded like someone was getting killed in here. And right as she opens it, she sees the sex scene, and I was like super embarrassed. So it just killed my whole. I was like a little kid, you know. So it killed my whole vibe to watch Bordello of Blood, and I was like, well, fuck it. She has part 8 over here. I kind of pulled that out as like one to watch as well because I hadn't like picked it up from the video store yet, and I ended up watching it, and it was pretty fun, you know. Goofy as shit. I don't understand why Baby Jason has hair in this movie, and it's bothered me my entire life, and will continue to do so. But there is like some sweet 80s music in it. I definitely feel cheated with the title. Should have been Jason like takes a leisurely boat ride that eventually ends in New York, not takes Manhattan. Come on. That's just false advertisement if there ever was.
Well, we just saw the trailer was definitely setting you up for something a little different than
he took a break on the shore there in Manhattan or something, but most of it was in Vancouver, if we're being honest. I don't know. I mean, I think it's like it's one of those examples in the franchise where I really loved it as a kid because I did. I was like totally sold on it. Well, that's awesome. You kicked the boombox, all that stuff. But in hindsight, I can understand why it gets the flack that it gets of being like kind of one of the worst movies in the franchise, just overall. So I don't know. I'm kind of a weird place with this one these days. I still love it. There's still like that awesome nostalgia that I have for it, but it's kind of ass.
Well, similar story to my viewing of the previous film. I kind of watched it in a marathon of sorts. I was forbidden to watch any of the Friday the 13th films as a kid because they were just too violent and gruesome for my mother's sensibilities. So I ended up seeing them when I was older. But that being said, after I saw this one, I didn't see it. I have mixed feelings on this film. I mean, I like films that are on a ship. I like slasher films in general, and the thing is, as I'm watching this movie now, I'm feeling like they tried to do the same fucking thing in the first film with Ralph, or whatever his name was, with that one guy. He was like, Jason has come back and you're going to die. It's Camp Blood all over again, you know, kind of a thing. And it's kind of like when Return of the Living Dead went to the rave, you know.
That was just fucking stupid.
You know,
it's embarrassing.
You get a boat ride. You get a couple of characters, but I think after they realized that it was a fucking stupid movie, they decided to say, "Okay, hey, Kane, come over here, do some comical shit." So he did. So I mean, when he first arrived at the New York. And this, I'm going to say this ahead of time. When he first arrived at the New York, there was this big fucking mask up on the billboard stating, "This is the beat the competition," or something like that. And it had the Jason fucking mask on it. And he just
that is just an actual hockey mask.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
but he turned his mask at it. You know, like, huh? You know?
Those moments do get it, like. It is honestly, those are like a saving grace of the movie for me. I wouldn't say it's totally fucking stupid. I would just say it's pretty stupid that they expected us to be so stupid that we'll all of a sudden buy that this lake is connected to the ocean. Just go fuck yourself.
Yeah. That was one of the parts I had trouble with.
Yeah. And also, if we're supposed to believe that Crystal Lake, it's been established that at least in the first few movies, it was established that Camp Crystal Lake is in New Jersey.
Yeah,
and there are much faster ways to get from the sticks of New Jersey to Manhattan than a boat.
And
I just know from living on the water like that's connected to the ocean. If there was ocean access, there'd be ships in there, bro. Like the lake, Crystal Lake wouldn't be such a sleepy lake. There'd be dudes on jet skis bumping off his mask because he's trying to like sneak up on chicks and stuff. It just wouldn't work.
Where this one, I always got the impression, and actually, Forrest, since you were just there, you can at least tell us geographically where it was actually. But I always got the impression it was kind of like maybe in central southern New Jersey, kind of in the, kind of Pine Woods area, that sort of area.
I mean, I think in the series mythology, it's Crystal Lake is somewhere in the Pine Barrens, but in reality, it's in northern New Jersey. It's in northern New Jersey.
So if it is in northern Jersey, that makes more sense to what we've got going on here. But yeah, I will admit, when I first saw that, I was like, what happened to this? Is not a lake. What?
So who was the, so where are we at first impressions?
Well, I think Dave did his.
Who did?
I think Dave, did you finish, Dave?
Yeah, I finished.
Okay.
Oh, and before we go on, we have a comment with Brian Star-Lord saying, a fortune teller told me I'd suffer terrible heartbreak in 12 years. I think we all will at one point or another. In 12 years, goodness. To cheer myself up, I bought a puppy. I binge watched Tales series this Halloween. And
I'm seeing that one.
And they were for sure a lot of sex scenes. Yes,
there is. This one was loud though. It was like it was graphically loud. She came in to check on me, and it was hardcore embarrassing because when you get seen watching a movie like that or a scene like that out of context, it just feels like you got caught watching porn.
Yeah. So we got those. So it's just Jake and Forrest left that haven't given their first impression.
Right.
Well, why don't we go with Forrest? Was obviously not your first time watching it.
No, and I'm also the resident New Yorker here. So, first time I saw this movie, I was 11 years old. I was 11 years old. I was having a sleepover at my house. So me and my friends were like up watching it like at 1:00 in the morning on HBO. I definitely agree with David and Mo. Definitely have I have like a love-hate relationship with this movie because on one hand, false advertising, so for that I put it. Well, for a long time it was my least favorite of the franchise, but in recent years I've with more rewatches I've kind of moved it up to second to worst. Because there's still it still has its charm. There's a lot of fun. There's fun or amusing moments, which I feel like I should probably I don't know. I want to get into too many details. That I should save for later. So there's entertaining moments. Actually, I will also make an observation because this is something that bothers me. But it's about watching movies that are set in New York City. It's like I can't watch movies set in New York City without wondering if I'm looking at New York or if I'm looking at somewhere like Vancouver or Wilmington, North Carolina. The subway, the scenes in the subway, they can cover Vancouver's subway system in graffiti, and it'll still look a lot cleaner than the real thing.
Yeah. Actually,
I have actually been to New York City once, and I actually did get to see the subway system a little bit, just enough to where I could believe. I didn't even see the worst of it, I'm sure. But
actually,
I went once, but I'm not brave enough for that shit.
Well, we in Virginia got that whole treatment with the X-Files, where they tried to pass so many Canadian locations off that didn't even bear close resemblance.
Well, as a nature fan, when you see something that's filmed out in the woods, that is a big thing for me. Like you get a lot of like Cold Mountain, for example, is supposed to be set in North Carolina, and they filmed it in Romania. And it definitely doesn't look like North Carolina. But the one that's one of the reasons I love Terrence Malick's The New World. because all that stuff, Jamestown, all that's where they filmed that. And I looked at it, I was like, this is accurate. I've been there. It's very rare that you get to see that.
See,
Not
we're
like the
lucky over
Disney-
here, like in the Northwest, because
Yeah.
all of our shit, if they don't, like, basically usually what they do is they'll film a few exterior things down here so that you get those landmarks in, and then the rest of it's just shot in the woods of British Columbia, which is like right above us. So unless you've been in there and like looked at every moss-covered stone or something, you can't tell the difference, you know, because it is literally the same region, you know. So you can just like shoot your whole movie in the woods up there, then drive down here and get like some Seattle shots or some Portland shots or something. Call it a day.
So, Jake, obviously your first time watching this. So, what are your first impressions of this film as a first-time viewer?
As a first-time viewer, other than that unbelievable gaffe that we were just discussing about how, okay, so this lake suddenly is now dockside, right? And they could go straight from there to a cruise ship, apparently.
Did it until like 3/4 of the way into the movie, you know?
Yeah. And so that I had some issues with.
If in truth, you want to know the truth about it is that the writers hoped that people wouldn't care.
Well, that's probably true, yes. And that was one of those miracle exceptions I was talking about. Other than that, to be honest, I actually enjoyed this more than most of the movies we've seen. I wouldn't say that made it a better film, but again, I give it props for doing something different. This one, to me, it almost had more of that Ninja Turtles vibe to it than most of the other.
A little bit. Actually, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it did come out just the year before TMNT, and, you know,
well, New York
with the
back when
music and everything.
dangerous.
Well,
What's
let's.
that?
I said both of them back, back when New York City was like was dangerous.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, this one, like, but on the other hand, I thought it was kind of funny because we talked about in that discussion how Ninja Turtles got a lot of flack for how dark it was or whatever. And this one, like, friggin' opens with a shot of some people shooting up in an alley or something like that. It's like, okay, this one's a little darker.
It's a dope song in that opening.
Yep. I actually had that on my
It was
iTunes.
not bad. What's that?
I said I actually had that song on my iTunes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I did kind of like the soundtrack to this one. I thought it wasn't bad overall. My main overall impression, there was that total jerkwad of a authority figure that was way too prevalent in the movie, and a character I quite liked got off almost immediately. So there were a few kind of like, I didn't think they hit the right people at the right time sometimes. But
that
overall,
dude did throw a small child into a lake, though. And that's pretty funny.
I know.
Yeah.
But so
that's kind of the prevalence of the backstory with the girl. Apparently, because of that connection, is why Jason is after her. So even though we get a Jason that has hair and has skin.
My first impression was actually a mixed one, because I did like it a lot better than I did 7. And I like campy things, and that was a campy title. And darn if it didn't deliver some on that camp as we went. And to me, the biggest issue, though, I was having this picture in my head, like that trailer of Jason going through Times Square, because you get to see the one scene where he's in Times Square that cost them a lot, and I just wanted to see that scene in Times Square. He's just like mowing down New Yorkers, and the rest of the New Yorkers are just kind of like just walking around, just doing their day. They just do a little bit of wider swath and ignore as it's going.
Instead, stepping over corpses.
Instead, a cash grab for advertisement. So
Well, yeah.
You got
I mean,
Burger
I
King,
think they
you got
wanted to do a lot more, but it just logistically wouldn't have worked too. So I think they had some issues
That's
doing what they did
expensive.
do.
Yeah, like that boxing scene was supposed to take. What they wanted that boxing scene to take place at Madison Square Garden.
That's lofty for sure. But some Times Square stuff, they could have done some more work like that. But you would have always had people like trying to get a picture with Jason, like it was at that point. So just not feasible. They could have faked more New York stuff though, instead of making 2/3 of it Jason takes a cruise.
Exactly.
I don't think we got worse first impressions yet.
No, we did. We hit his, and then we moved to Jake's. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
They could have called it Jason at Sea. I mean, that would have made more sense.
Like I don't know, the voyage.
Jason goes overboard.
Actually,
well, I guess in a sense, we kind of get a nod to 6 with the boat being named Lazarus.
Yeah.
I would have actually watched the movie if it had been like an ocean cruise across the Atlantic, and Jason gets on board his cruise ship and starts taking out these people after they've been out to sea for a few days because they've got no escape. And Jason, being as he is, no lifeboats.
No, there's a crossover.
Or they could have made New York City a surprise. Like, you don't know
if you did this out at sea one though, you could have the final scene be like, the person whoever's vanquished Jason, like they eventually coast into port and they're like feasting on his nasty flesh, because they've been shipwrecked basically, or like stranded in the ocean.
Shoot,
I don't know. I just suddenly have this flash of I know Brandon will appreciate this. Mo might. The Book of the Atlantic, with Black Butler. I'd love to see Jason up against Sebastian. That'd be that'd be fun.
Sadly, I've not started that. My kid's like an expert on it, though. That's her favorite thing is Black Butler. So.
Right.
Yeah, they could have done a crossover with Titanic. With
well, he is one hell of a butler.
See, okay, if Jason had came up and just skewered Jack, I could understand Rose keeping the door to herself, but that's not how it went.
See, that would be awesome there. That's why the Titanic really sank. Jason was on board and he was like hacking them up.
Oh yeah, they are thinking of launching another one, so it's possible.
See, there you go. That's a new setting for the next movie.
Exactly.
So why don't we get started with the plot while my voice is still holding out? I got fresh voice juice here.
Juice.
It's called Really Strong Tea with a shot of cinnamon whiskey in it.
Nice.
So with that, this one was a slight difference from the previous. As was stated, somehow people were taking their boats to this obvious inlet because apparently Camp Crystal Lake does have this river channel that leads straight to New York. Actually, to the ocean, and then back to New York.
They do take a cruise to New York. So
So somehow,
kind of like
So these guys on this yacht end up getting kind of butchered by Jason because they put the anchor down too close to an electrical wire, which shocks him back to life, as you do.
Yeah.
And Wet Jason goes in and starts butchering them and apparently pilots the ship. I'm sorry, it did not drift that far because they made it look like it drifted all the way into perfectly next to the port there.
Okay.
Yes.
We do got to point out that might make little sense, actually, being as that he was raised around a summer camp, so speedboats and things. He at least saw people operate boats. You know what I mean?
If Michael Myers can drive a freaking car, Jason can drive a boat.
I mean, in the Institute, I'm sure Mikey saw it on the TV, and he was like, well, okay, you just put that to the D, and you just press the thing.
Well, because I read I have the Halloween, the now out of print Halloween novelization by Curtis Richards, and in it they said that Michael had observed Loomis driving while taking him to court dates.
I mean, they make a big deal about it with licenses and everything, but it's not that complicated. There's some mirrors, you know.
the bigger stretch is not so much him being able to pilot a boat down river or whatever, as it is kind of we have what appears to be a very built-up harbor suddenly in this previously quiet lake where people are in yachts and that sort of thing. And then when they drop the anchor, he said electric wire. He says big fat cable.
Yeah. What the hell's going on there?
And Jason is clearly laying on top of it. So it's like, where was that cable when,
Yeah,
Crystal Lake is built up over the years.
How come it didn't bring back his father?
Though he's laying on top of it. That means that either it was there when he was sunk last time, or whoever put it in kind of
just like,
let's get this little body out of the way.
We're just gonna ignore the weighted down corpse in the lake and just continue with our work here. Yeah. Honestly, though, the way some of those guys do that shit, that's probably closer to the truth.
Hey, they need a lot of power to power those camp buildings over there.
I see those city workers out here. They don't give any fucks, dude.
I mean, Forrest, you saw the camp. You saw how much power they have to use. They need a giant cable like that.
Yeah, right.
Probably for all those mansions he was talking about.
See, the thing that I honestly never even noticed in all the times I'd watched this until I watched the kill count, which unfortunately I didn't get this time, guys. I forgot to screen cap it. It's probably in the region. If you want to look it up, that'd be rad since Dane's not here. But dude on the boat has like an exact replica of Jason's mask, even with the axe cut in it. Like, what, we're supposed to believe they just make merchandise for this mass murder. Even in the 80s, they wouldn't have done that.
I mean, at that point, he'd become an urban legend.
Right.
But would they know necessarily about the axe chink in it? Well, maybe if that was part of the urban legend.
Go by witness testimony.
20, that's it.
Okay.
20 deaths that you can count. And then there was non-counted deaths. There was at least there were a couple of uncounted deaths off screen, but we don't count those.
I mean, what about all the people that were still on the boat when before it blew? Because
that's what they say.
Even the dude on Dead Meat skips past those because they don't happen, and who can tell how many red shirts were down there? I loved that he.
That's what they're saying.
They drowned though. That's probably the most horrific thing about this movie is that there's a whole deck full of kids like disco dancing that fucking drowned.
Yeah,
right.
So let's talk about like our main characters, because Jason somehow manages to drive this boat down whatever river apparently was leading out to the ocean so that he can hop aboard this cruise ship. That looks mysteriously like a tanker.
It's got a sauna on board, man.
Yep.
Tanker I want a crew on for sure.
It's pretty impressive inside, given how unimpressive it is.
Yeah.
Now, it's got a sauna, a disco club. What the fuck else do you need?
There are some tankers that people have outfitted and retrofitted to be cruise ships back in the day, so it could have been something like that. But Jason finds his way on board, and of course the slaughter ensues. And this is just a senior class who's just celebrating their graduation, so they're there with their escort, the captain asshole, and so that they can go to New York to party one last time as a graduating class. And
that's a ballin' ass senior trip too. Maybe it's because we're out here in like a rural area, but I had never heard of no kids taking like a cruise ship to the city on their senior trip.
And not exactly sort of. Our senior class did have a day cruise, but it was not a proper ocean cruise. It was a little riverboat.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we got the steamwheeler out here. That'll take you out on.
Honestly, if you're going to go from rural New Jersey to Manhattan, it makes more sense for them to take a riverboat.
Yeah. We did a riverboat through Richmond, and unfortunately, it got pretty close to the paper plant, so you couldn't go outside. It was not pleasant. But it was
cruise right there. We got a paper plant up the way. Like you drive a 20 minutes out that way, it smells like farts all day long.
Oh, trust me, I know about paper plants.
The ship was, I think the ship was called the Annabelle Lee, you know, because Richmond. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even have that. We didn't even get to see the cows as a senior trip. We just no, we could have looked at the paper plant if we wanted to. Jake's seen a paper plant that I know of, which is a slight bit bigger than the one in Richmond.
Yeah, a little bit.
Paper is pretty awesome. You know, without it, we wouldn't have a lot of cool things.
Oh man,
books and phone books and I don't know other stuff probably.
Well, in this case, cigarette packets, but
receipts at the CBS or whatever.
But this paper plant is the biggest on the East Coast, and it kind of looks like a Mad Max style, like post-apocalyptic city, especially at night.
A little bit.
So, but that's the kind of thing I grew up with. But
it'd been a badass destination for this cruise. Like they just end up with the paper plant, and then it smells like farts for the rest of the movie. That'd have been.
Hey, with all of the machines and stuff there, that would have been a great place to Jason to get
fucking A, dude, just making pulp out of those kids and shit.
Oh, lovely.
So they get on the cruise, and basically Jason's starting off all these seniors doing their thing, and some of the girls are doing their thing, trying to steal the cute guy that they want, and
snort coke.
Well, we should
have a little of that booger sugar up in there,
and blackmail the principal.
Well, we should also mention the little bit. We are introduced to a little bit of tension, a little bit of drama there on a couple of cases. First of all, our survivor girl, Rennie, I think her name was.
Rennie.
She has this Miss Van Dusen is like her mentor, and then you got Mr. McCulloch, the asshole who's apparently in charge of the trip, and the two of them are at complete odds over what's best for her and whatever. And you've also got the captain who expects his son to follow in his footsteps, and he doesn't want to. And then, of course, everyone else has their own sort of drama. And I will mention these early scenes are, again, one of the first, I think the first kill, other than the couple on the yacht, is the guitar chick, JJ.
Yeah.
And I liked her, and I was annoyed to see her go. And that's she was so proud of that guitar. It was a cool looking guitar.
Yeah.
Well, just Jason with that at mid swing is so iconic to me for some reason. Like if I had a Jason statue, that'd be one that I'd want. Is him just swinging that flying V.
Yeah.
I do want to mention with her a couple things. She was played by Saffron Henderson, who had a couple of appearances on 21 Jump Street, but she has a long and storied career as a voice actress for American redubs of anime, including The Best Show Ever, Maze and Koku. But she had roles on Ranma and Half, Dragon Ball, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, Escaflowne. Let's see here. She was in Nana, Naruto, Inuyasha. I mean, I don't know. I just thought she needs a shout out. It was too brief a role, unfortunately.
Yep.
In a good way.
Also, you have Kelly Hu in one of her early roles.
Yes, Kelly Hu was also underused, and she was palling around with this movie's spoiled
rich girl,
nasty, and she was the nicer one of the two. I liked her in this movie, so I didn't like seeing her go, but whatever.
Her outfit, though, the baggy shorts with the suspenders.
Yeah,
it's those late 80s, early 90s, man.
But yes, a very early Kelly Hu. I think she was also on Jump Street, though. That was
great show, kind of underrated. A lot of people just know about the movies nowadays. Go watch.
Yeah.
I've watched the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, the show is much better than the movies, especially.
Agreed.
Apparently, Kelly Hu's first ever appearances were on Growing Pains. A show I never did see. Huh. Whatever.
She played China White on Arrow, the TV show.
Yes. Nice recurring role.
X-Men too.
So, with that, we had a whole bunch of this cast of characters, and we had one heck of a ship. We had we had a disco on the ship, we had a bar, we had a kitchen, we had a kind of corridors with mazes, we had a sauna, we had a boxing ring. The girls could watch the guys box from a skylight up above it. Right. It's just this pretty impressive one, and the cabins on this ship are like much more impressive than cabins on a ship I've seen. So
Rennie had a recurring role on Home Improvement.
Yeah, she was Tim's sister.
Yeah,
and she was also
Go ahead, sorry.
Project Elf.
And an appearance on The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. And she had a lot of fun roles.
I think our cast this time around is actually one of the more unique in a Friday movie.
A lot of them careers outside of this movie.
And I really do. Jensen Daggett, the one that played Rennie, I really did like her, both the actress, but like the character. I liked the character a lot. She was probably my favorite survival girl I've seen so far from the series.
So though I'll admit they totally redid the scene, except in this time with the spoiled rich girl and the film geek, but this time having him help her use her wiles to get access to biology.
Wayne was the film geek, right?
Yeah,
he was the film geek.
And then basically him being turned down, just like the character in the previous movie, and then him basically taking it. But at least he got some champagne out of the deal. So
yeah, right.
But he did lose the girl that he was filming, which they seem to have some chemistry going too.
Right.
Well, I think it's easy to, based on my first impressions, to assume that I don't like this movie anymore, and that's not true. Yes, it's ass from like a logic standpoint, but it's also one of the funner movies in the series, so I can understand why it's a fan favorite.
It's got some
good stuff.
I would say it's more polarizing among fans.
Because lots of people it's their favorite, and then lots of people will say it's the worst one, and it's like, I don't know. I think you're kind of.
I'm somewhere in between myself.
It
was definitely worse, but I mean, Jason Goes to Hell has to take the bottom slot. As much as I like the movie,
we'll find out soon enough.
It's science, bro.
It's my second guilty pleasure movie in the series.
All right, I love it. I haven't reviewed the comic books, which we'll be sure to plug right now and then later. So goes out. Happy Hour Comic Club.
But yeah, I mean, this one next to this one and Jason X are my two favorite as far as guilty pleasure movies. But Jason X was definitely the leader because it didn't have the shackles that the censor board had on this movie. This movie, they really dialed back the violence. We thought it was dialed back in the previous one. But they really made sure that they took every bit of gore out that they could.
See, but we get the sauna rock in the guy's guts.
We get the guy, and then we get his opponent getting his head punched off into a dumpster.
That is cool, but from a sheer gruesome factor, that sauna rock in the guts is one of the more gruesome kills I think in the franchise. That's right there, kind of. I think with the flare in the mouth. From part 5 of being kills that if you blink and you miss them, but they are actually kind of like damn.
Although the boxer, he was supposed to have a different death. Because I had this coffee table book from Fangoria there was a whole chapter on King Hodder's experiences filming Jason Takes Manhattan. And they showed an alternate death, and there was a picture of an alternate death for the boxer, where instead of getting a sauna rock shoved in his stomach, he was supposed to get two darts in his eyes.
Yeah.
As you recall, there's a scene where Jason steps into what's supposed to be a game room.
Well, the guy who's supposed to get his head punched off was supposed to have a different death as well, but they.
Well, that scene was supposed to take place at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. It was, I mean, you had your various things, and once they find out what's going on with people, I mean, they have kind of a divided stance. Like, one guy is basically like, well, heck with it, we're just going to band together, we'll kick his ass.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, the stick in the mud guy, is like, no, we're going to stay here. and we're gonna use his like innate boat skill to get to shore. Which sadly, I agreed with him for the first time in the movie. At that point, I was like, "Y'all don't know what this guy can do." And sure enough, it failed.
We have to comment on how kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. There's like a smart word for that I don't know. But the way that they handle the dude, like, because they do tend to do like the token people of color in these movies. But in this one, the dude like is the guy, I'm pretty sure, that says like, let's just fuck him up, you know? And then he kind of bands everyone together and they take a proactive stance against Jason for like the first time in the entire series. And then he doesn't just get murdered right away. He gets chucked in the water. He shows up later to get his head punched off, you know? Like, so he didn't just get murdered right away. He was of consequence to a point still later, you know?
I thought that fake out kill was actually pretty cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then you had then when they finally did get to New York, the first thing that happens is they get robbed. And the girl
gets kidnapped, and
Jason actually saves someone for a change. You know, he saves her from getting raped by heroin addicts, and that's pretty admirable. You know, it's pretty sad when he's got to be the dude to come into the movie and rescue someone, but you know. Yeah. I'd concur with like that dead meat dude. It's pretty hilarious too at the same time.
Now for me, this part, I mean, this is the one when you finally get the final fight with Jason and the end of that is the most weird. That is probably one of the weirdest ways next to the end of Jason Goes to Hell, but we'll get back to that. But the main girl is having these weird psychic visions this entire time of baby Jason.
Little tiny, not bald-headed baby Jason, which is...
Wow. With skin, no mutation or anything.
Just a full head of hair in one of those scenes. Like he just came from Supercuts or some shit, and they didn't want to mess it up with a bald cap. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Just some kid that decided to pull out of the audience and be like, "Hey, kid, come here. Shoot the scene for us."
But when we get in there, we get a couple of cool kills, but we also finally get that scene of him in Manhattan, and it is an epic scene seeing him standing there in Times Square. I mean, that's what we were all looking for.
When he's looking around at those fucking billboards, it's like he's like, "Oh, cool. More people to kill."
Well, yeah, he's never been away from the lake, apparently, even though it's been an inlet this entire time. Damn, Jason. Like, why such a homebody? Move around, see the world.
And of
why
course,
not? It's right at your fingertips, apparently.
He bumps into that gang of kids, and they're at first they're like, "Hey!"
Before we get to that, though, I do want to touch on how creepy, you know, full-headed baby Jason aside, you know, completely haired. Those scenes with Rennie, like the parts where they're like when she looks through that porthole and baby Jason's out there and shit, like that stuff's cool. You know, there are some cool. They did do some cool stuff with it. They just, for some reason, chose to totally throw the design of like little tiny bald-headed baby Jason out the window. And
like when he reached the mirror in the bathroom.
Yeah, I thought that stuff was cool, and you know what I mean? Execution, it's just, why the fuck did they change the design of Baby Jason? How hard would it have been to hit Tom Savini up for a mask?
Yeah. They have changed aspects of design and character and appearance of several things throughout the series. I'm at the point where I'm not at all surprised.
Dude, even Jason's face looks like old fucking baloney in the movie. Like, none of it looks good.
Or like how? Okay, so part 6 in part 6 he gets a pair of gloves. Part 7 they're gone, and then you know in this movie they're back.
Well, just his face, man. Like at the end when he's like all like gurgling that shit. Jason, he just looks like if you took a ham to the beach and it washed out for a while and then you found it like the next time that you went back to the beach. That's pretty much what his face looks like.
I don't look to
lame.
this film series for continuity.
Continuity is one thing, but at least, god damn it, we don't want old ham Jason for the fucking final movie that we get for a while. That's ridiculous.
So, what did y'all think of the scenes in New York with Jason's kills and so on?
Julius getting his head punched off into the dumpster. Classic. That was. I remember laughing. I remember like when I was watching it as a kid and laughing my ass off.
I remember, just recently when I watched this when he took the head principal to the toxic waste, I was like, so this is how the Toxic Avenger is created.
I mean, it's yeah. If you're a little tutu wearing nerd, but apparently Jason is just like, oh, I can't do it. I don't know. The scene where he kicks the boombox will always forever be like the moment in the movie for me.
Yeah, and the gang. He gets threatened by the street gang, and instead of killing them, he just turns around, lifts up his mask, and they run away.
No, man.
That's classic.
Actually, there is.
Though, he seems very inconsistent in his drive to kill.
Yeah.
That's because he realizes he's not in this anymore.
No, it's because he read the script and he's like, okay, this will make the audience laugh. This will.
I like when he first gets off the boat. He sees that that billboard with the hockey mask on.
Yeah.
He just like.
Well, the Times
like
Square scene too. I mean, if you apply logic to it, it's like we're supposed to believe Jason knows how to navigate crosswalks, even though he's never been outside.
He can drive a boat.
I think we've already established that logic is not a central piece.
It's no longer exists.
It didn't even exist when he first came back in the second movie.
Well, I think didn't we cover that though in that discussion that there is some sort of believability to maybe that. No, it just really doesn't make sense that he traveled over there to ice pick that girl. But because if he was doing that, okay, if he's got the wanderlust enough to travel out there to kill Adrian King or whatever, why is he not going out there and taking cruises? Or
I seriously
he can be seeing the world.
I seriously think as soon as Jason got to the dock, he was given the script and he was like, you know what? I got this, guys.
Actually, I know what's going on. In the time he had between movies, he was learning how to learn how to pilot a boat and do all this stuff while in between.
Hey, I mean, the kid in my side of the mountain taught himself falconeering when he was out there living in a tree, so I suppose Jason has just as much a chance as anyone else of learning new skills while he's in the wilderness.
See, the weird part, of course, was the final fight and that whole thing. And I'm kind of glad they decided not to go with the original idea, which was they had this giant sculpture of Jason's head, and they were going to have a kid burst out of
that's
the
stupid
giant Jason head and do that, but they decided instead to go with what they did, which still had a little Jason basically coming back out to give him a second chance to renew or something.
Curious case of Benjamin Button moment.
I don't know, man. The whole end of this movie fucking sucks, if I'm being honest. I like the movie, but goddamn, do I hate the ending of it. It just feels like they just. Ugh.
It ended as crazy as it began. It was just off its rocker.
It's no wonder it took them a few years to, even after someone else bought the rights, to do another movie.
I had to say again, one of my biggest complaints is them keeping McCulloch alive as long as they do. I mean, that dude needed to bite it much sooner.
Oh God, yeah.
He was he was like a constant downer. There was nothing positive coming from him at all. Even the shrink in the other movie was had some moments of not as negative.
And he at least used someone as a human shield, so that gave him good scumbag points. This guy
Exactly.
annoying.
Well, like he was getting excited over being able to exploit this girl's psychic powers. This guy got excited over nothing.
He did chuck a small child into a lake, and that is always going to be funny to me in like a movie context. You know? Like, he just tossed that little chick in the lake.
Well, not just a lake. He gave her that whole spiel about Jason still.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a horror story about the lake, and then I'm gonna chuck you into it. When you can't swim, and
Dave was Dave's trying to say something.
Go for it.
I was saying that he got excited over the science project that the rich girl.
Yes, he did.
Oh, right. There was
he had a real hard on for that project. He wanted.
There was that. Yes.
He was like, "Whoa, whoa." What are you doing? This is exciting me.
Yeah.
It's like that scene from from The Graduate, except reversed.
Right.
But the special effects in this movie were, well, they weren't bad. They definitely invested, especially in the CG effects that they used for Ghost Jason, as Mo pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
And they invested on the makeup for Wet Jason, essentially. And that's how, I think that was how Kane Hodder referred to it, because he had to stay wet all the freaking time.
I was going to say, I felt like he looked like he was dripping water the entire.
They were throwing water on him the whole time.
Very wet and slimy.
I think it's to give it that ghost story vibe. You know what I mean? Like, there might even be like some, I don't know. I've not like looked up a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff, but I imagine like that reminds me in some ways of like Japanese ghost stories. Or just other ghost stories that I've seen where it's like, oh, it's like a drowned chick, so she's always wet,
Yeah.
Like it was a cool element to it. I think in this one, and two, Jason's for sure, like a lot of people call it teleporting around. He's definitely, there's no rhyme or reason to how Jason gets to where he is. He is almost kind of like an entity at this point.
Hey, Leslie Vernon did say that did actually answer that question.
Well, yeah, chasing you into a building while throwing you out the window the next. So, as we see, the principal character.
Well, at least one thing I will say is, I feel like the what am I trying to say? When he's following people, like when he's after you, I feel like in these movies, it makes a little more sense. Like, he looks like he's actually chasing you or something along those lines. Like, the thing with like the Halloween is almost like the joke of like, they kind of keep walking, and somehow they'll always keep pace. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Kind of like when they go into that diner and they're like, "Can we use the phone?" She's like, "Yeah, we got a phone. It's in back, but it's broken." And then they're like, "You don't understand. There's a maniac after us." Welcome to our lady.
Yeah. And then that maniac breaks down their wall.
And then that big giant dude comes at him, and he throws him against the bar mirror. And
funny thing, that cookie that he throws in the mirror is Ken Kerzinger, who played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason.
Unfortunate part of his legacy. No, it's all right. We'll get there.
We'll get there soon, actually.
Oh my. So with that, let's talk about the music. Actually, no. Did anybody have anything else special effects wise before they wanted to go to the music?
They did a very good job with Julius's head.
Well, again, the sauna in the guts, like the sauna rock in the guts, is my favorite part of the movie in terms of that stuff. And I think it's a good indication of what could have came from this movie and the previous movie if they hadn't been so hounded by like ratings bullshit, because it is fairly gruesome. You know, like he puts the sauna rock in the guy's stomach and shit's like catching on fire in there. It's fucking awesome. You know, it's just unfortunately we didn't get very much of that kind of stuff, probably to Jake's delight in these last two movies.
Yeah, I didn't miss it.
Yeah, I think that we could have used more of that caliber of effect in terms of the death, you know.
Yeah.
At this point in the series, though, from like basically 6 was the death toll as far as like the Jason movies being as much of proper slasher movies as they could have been. Even in later ones where we get a higher body count or more gore effects, they're Jason kills. They're not slasher movie kills anymore, which is fine. It's just, you know, I think that 6 was kind of the turning point, you know, and 5 was like the last installment where we got proper slasher movie kills. After that, it's all been Jason kills, you know.
Yeah, I think really 5 was the best place to say this was the end of it being a slasher series, and it really became its own thing afterwards.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street took a lot less time to get there than Friday the 13th did, because with the Nightmare on Elm Street, the first 2 films were pretty serious, and then after that, it just got off the rails.
Then they're Freddy movies, you know.
Yeah. And of course, then there's the Child's Play. You had only one film before that all went off the rails. even though you could say the first, the second, and third were kind of horror, but they really stopped even pretense after the third one. It's but to me, actually, that movie lost all creepiness once it all spoke. But that's the thing with these, is that sometimes you're going to lose a creep factor, and
right, they become more about the character and having fun with that and like doing that shit. And I think if we're looking at it in hindsight, Nightmare on Elm Street destroyed Friday the 13th in terms of figuring that out quicker and distilling it better into like a pop culture character that was just fun to watch do his thing. Whereas with Friday the 13th, the first half of them, you know, you're still under this pretense that it's a proper slasher movie, you know.
So speaking of cultural, what about the music? What did y'all think?
Oh, awesome.
Oh, it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was well rounded for the film.
They definitely improved from the last film.
Well,
it's our first introduction of actual like 80s rock into Friday the 13th, if memory serves, you know. We kind of had that sweet part where that girl's dancing in part 5, but it's not the same. You know?
But
what's that? Oh, no, yeah. Alice Cooper in part 6, yeah. I totally forgot about all that shit.
And also that song that Crispin Glover was dancing to in the final chapter.
Did we get any of that in 7? Did they skip right over the 80s rock in 7?
I feel like 7's the only one that didn't really have any 80s rock.
Right.
They kind of they shortchanged us on that shit, because this one, it brings it back in for sure, and it should have just been a part of the series, I guess, since the Alice Cooper stuff. So 7 being kind of devoid, that is probably what makes me, you know, make note of it in this one, but it was used to good effect. I mean, those opening title, that song that plays over that shit is awesome.
Oh yeah,
Darkest Side of the Night.
What's that? What's going on?
Oh, I was just saying that. I just said the title of the song, the main song from the movie, "The Darkest Side of the Night."
Isn't it like Metropolis?
Oh, yeah,
or something?
Metropolis is the band.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that song kills.
Yeah.
So I think the music, I mean, in terms of the other stuff, I think at this point we've fairly firmly established the fact that everything else in terms of score for the most part is usually just building on that main suite that Manfredini did for the first movie. They've never really went all out. We're not getting Goblin soundtracks with these or anything. But it's serviceable. Adding in pop music was a good idea in part 6. And it's a shame they didn't continue it in part 7. Making it more of a prevalent part of that would have been awesome. I mean, imagine some of those ending scenes with like a dope 80s metal soundtrack playing over. That would be fucking killer. We did get little bits of that in this, but still, I think the Nightmare movies just used it to better effect. You know, Dokken and Part 3 onward, they always like add rock and music, you know.
Right.
And they did the same sort of thing where, you know, in the Nightmare soundtracks, it's like that little stupid chime that plays when the girls are jumping sticks or jumping ropes, and like, you know, it's basically the same theme music, but they added in like cool other popular music at the time. If you're gonna make a character a pop culture icon, which is clearly what they were really hoping with this one would happen with the I Love New York and stuff, and the whole Turtles vibe, like Jake pointed out. And there's a lot of things with this where you could tell they were really trying to, like, hopefully finally put Jason into that same sort of hemisphere as Freddy in terms of that stuff. But he always existed a couple of layers below, because there wasn't the depth to the character that could make for awesome pop culture moments, like with Freddy, you know. Welcome to prime time, bitch! Right there in that one line, you already know.
Freddy has a voice. He has a face. He has a voice. Whereas Jason's just any stuntman can play Jason.
Only so much you can do with a dude in a hockey mask, you know.
Well, that's the thing. Is it's I mean, that's why eventually at the end, Paramount ended up dropping this series after this, and New Line ended up picking it back up, which, you know, that was to set up the potential dream fight that we'd all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Well, I
spent my childhood waiting for that shit.
I read that actually the seventh one they were initially trying to make the Freddy v. Jason thing happen, but it couldn't. But one random thing I want to throw out before we completely leave the music behind. This was another gaffe on the film, in a way, because I couldn't find anything, and I don't know if you guys know enough about lore or trivia on the movie about exactly when the eighth movie is really supposed to be taking place. But supposedly the seventh movie takes place in 91 and 2001, and this one follows that. So that whole 80s grungy vibe for New York with that rockin' 80s soundtrack, it perfectly sets the time and place as a contemporary story. But if it's theoretically supposed to be taking place like 10 years ago, it's kind of off.
Because I remember the Friday the 13th website. Actually, the Friday the 13th website had it established as, it's part 7 taking place around like 91, 93, right. And this one taking place in 94.
That's possible.
Well, is that like that's the contemporary part of it or the initial part of it?
I don't know, man. I mean,
there's not enough.
If I was in charge of the timeline the website or something, it'd
probably have enough denim
continuity. What's that? Sorry, nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much what the timeline page on the Friday website would say. Because there's no timeline here. I'm pretty sure that they established that this was 10 years after some shit. We've been in the 80s for like 40 years, I think. Or I don't know. Forrest is probably the best person qualified to answer this. Is there continuity to these shits, or is this just like a bunch of movies?
I feel like after part 4, continuity just went out the window. Continuity,
yeah, it just doesn't exist.
Well, you see, I really do think they were trying for continuity at 5, and then they really wanted to go with that whole idea of making Tommy the next Jason,
right,
and moving with it towards towards the slasher thing, keeping it a little bit more serious, but slightly more campy than they had. And Tommy would be the next Jason. They'd go with it for a while, and if they still kept it, Tommy would die, and another one would take the mask. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like how Camp Blood went when Camp Blood started going with 666, where they had the enchanted demon mask that they were going to use to have them inherit, and that only lasted for 2 movies. So it's ideas come and go, and then they realized, well, heck with continuity, people just want Jason to come back again and again. Let's just do that. That's all we need.
Well, and apparently they wanted Tina to come back, and she wanted too much money, so that was another attempt at continuity that just fizzled.
Yep.
So
I think 6 is like a better example of salvaging the continuity, though, obviously, because they were able to make it like just him going against Jason as a thing. 7 felt like we've got a new Jason that obviously rules. We've got the ability to do a movie that would kick ass, even if it doesn't make a ton of sense. So that's where we get the new blood. With this one, it felt like a missed opportunity to get it back on track and maybe make it a little bit more serious again, I guess. But I think they were trying to replicate some of that, Nightmare on Elm Street flavor, which is why we have Jason kicking some punkers, boombox and stuff, even though as hilarious as that is, 100% doesn't make sense for the character. And then he turns around and comically shows him his face. Okay. It's awesome, but if I'm really sitting here nitpicking it, it's like, it's pretty fucking stupid, actually.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's go ahead and get the final scenes. Not final scenes, favorite scenes. I think we hit the final scene a while back. And then we'll do our wrap up, and then that should be good for the night. So, Jake, we start with your favorite scene and your wrap up.
I'm not entirely sure again, I don't know that there were any clear favorites. I liked seeing McCulloch bite it finally, just because then I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. I kind of liked one little thing that, that they set up. It was kind of a neat little thing that worked for me because I'm a big Stephen King fan. I did like how Rennie had that Stephen King pen and ended up using it to stab Jason at one point. And it's like, basically, for a brief moment, we saw who the real winner would be there, but very brief moment. And again, I can't. I did enjoy that whole thing of him showing his face to the punkers. That even though it was totally out of character, it did amuse me. That's kind of it.
All right. So. Actually, we don't need. Actually, everybody here knows you because you're on our channel here. So.
We're doing outros too, huh?
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, all right. So I'm Good Boogie Jake, the co-star on this channel, and obviously a big fan of this series. But I am a big movie fan in general, and I enjoy talking stuff with these fine folks here, and that's all I got tonight, I guess.
That's all, folks. How about you,
Indeed.
Forrest? Favorite scene and outro.
Oh, wait.
Forrest, favorite scene?
Okay. Favorite scene? Toss up between Julius getting his head punched off and the Times Square scene.
And what outro that you have for us?
Well, I'm Forrest. I'm based here in New York and not Vancouver. I recently survived a day at the real Camp Blood.
Good deal,
dude. You should compile all those photos and stuff and share them in the Movies Galore page so that viewers can take a look at your journey there. That'd be super dope.
Sure. I actually shot some video that I need to edit together.
Oh, we'd love to see that. That would be cool. So, how about you, Mo? What was your favorite scene?
Well, shit. I think if I had to pick a favorite scene, it's probably when that dude tossed the kid in the water. Definitely a solid movie, though. All the shit that we've talked about it tonight, I don't think should reflect on it's fun to watch. I mean, most of these movies are ass. If a lot of these slasher flicks, they're just garbage. But that's what makes them fucking fun. So check out my review for Slaughter High if you want another good example of that type of stuff, because it's just fun. You don't have to overthink it. It's just it exists and you watch it. And, have a couple of beers, maybe a Hot Pocket. It's so if you want that kind of stuff, definitely pop on over to the Slaughter High review. We do have a ton of Kaiju Quarantine stuff that's going to be dropping soon. I know I've been teasing that like all forever, but there's a lot of stuff. I finished all the Gamera reviews for one thing, so those are going to be coming out soon. And we're probably going to, instead of doing like the whole Showa period of Godzilla, since every asshole's doing that this year because it's like the 65th anniversary or whatever, we're going to go ahead and just do the Millennium period. So starting with Godzilla 2000, after I've got all this other stuff uploaded, we're going to just review the entirety of the Millennium period of Godzilla. Everyone else is going to be doing Showa and Heisei stuff because those are the most like fan appreciated periods. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. Well, you'd be doing like the thing nobody's doing. So
so we're gonna hit Final Wars. Fucking Don Fry's up in there with his big MMA mustache. Jake's gonna appreciate that. It's gonna be amazing.
Which one?
Final Wars. Yeah. So, Dave, actually, you should do 1999 Godzilla while you're at it.
You talking about Ferris Bueller versus the Lizard? Because I'm down.
But Dave, what was your favorite scene?
I have to say my favorite scene was the cafe scene. I can't get over the fact that they were talking about a maniac, and she was like, "Well, welcome to New York, people." Because that was the idea. I mean, that's pretty much New York is pretty much the city of maniacs. So,
dude, imagine the scene that would have taken place if
of the world for quite some years. So, yeah, it was a maniac city, but not to go with she's a maniac. No.
Oh, that song was originally written for 1980s Maniac.
But in any case, I also kind of like the I kind of like the final battle scene a little bit too, even though it kind of went weird for a little bit. I mean, who's to say that a zombified killer can't be toxified to death?
I just don't feel like it's gonna have an effect on him. I mean,
okay, so he doesn't turn into Alex Mack.
Is it gonna give him cancer? I mean,
hey, they should have done.
Maybe that's why his head was all bumpy in Jason Goes to Hell. Remember that? He has like all tumors.
Right?
It's from the toxic waste in Jason 8 there.
That's how I always saw it.
Instead, it released his inner child. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Dave.
I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore, where we go on and talk about films, just have some fun and kick back, have a couple of beers, get a little wasted while we discuss the. Although if you're the host now, you have a duty to host instead of getting drunk while driving there. So steady ahead as we speak. Although if you so want to be drunk as shit while hosting, I guess I won't be offended. But in any case, I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I go on about the things that I collect that are movie wise, and I occasionally bring out the film review here and there. So hopefully you get you enjoy my thoughts on these films, and you just go out and watch the movies that I'm reviewing. So in any case, thank you for listening, watching, and definitely like, share, and subscribe to all these fine feathered creatures that I tend to speak with. So
see now, before we go, of course, my favorite scene is that pan of Manhattan. I mean, of Times Square. I just love that. That is just what I was waiting for that whole time. It's too bad. Now, it would only have been made better if he had just started slaughtering everybody that just went by, just like didn't like a good 40 or 50 people before they finally realized maybe we need to move around or get away.
Yeah.
Like him in that New York cross traffic, just fucking killing dudes, you know.
But maybe in the future.
With his single-minded fascination on knocking out the people from that cruise and ignoring everybody else, he almost became less villainous than McCulloch there.
I should mention that when I was 12 years old, I started writing a screenplay. It was supposed to be a remake of this movie, which would have actually spent more time in Manhattan.
Did you have him kill the Red Sox Forest?
Of course. I would have had him. Since I'm a big New York Rangers fan, I would have had him killing the Philadelphia Flyers or the New Jersey Devils.
It's amazing.
But no, unfortunately, the script itself got lost when my family was moving from the East Coast to Utah.
So, as far as this channel, of course, if y'all are watching this channel, then you should know about it. But we try and have a lot of fun here, and this Horrorween is not over yet. But we will be taking a break from our Friday the 13th coverage, because next week we are going to do another episode of Anime Anticlimax, where we are talking about Kino's Journey, which is a wonderful little series. I do hope that some of you all will get to see it and join us there.
Indeed.
And Jake will be leading us on that discussion. So this would have been an even better week for it with my voice all screwed up.
And I can't believe I didn't think to plug that. Whatever. That's how it goes.
Good. We'll get to have that to look forward to. And for those of you who love my reviews, all two of you, I am actually getting back into the movie review game. Yes, we have 2 B films. One actually by the director of Camp Blood 666. I get to do his premiere film that he directed. And then, of course, I will be also looking at Dakota Ray's new film next week. But that's not going to end it, because I also intend on trying to get the Splatter Farm films also taken care of as well. So I've got that. Oh, and re-reviewing Death Toilet 3. So lots of fun.
You want a collab for that Splatter Farm review? Just hit me up. I'll submit
here.
Oh yeah. Well, who knows? So maybe
Splatter Farm 2 already out now?
Return to Splatter Farm is out.
Really?
Yep, I have a copy. Kyle told me about it, so I have got to check that out. But in any case, I wish you all well, and I hope you have a great night. Subscribe, share, leave a comment down below. We'd like to know what you think.